Hey, welcome back to Adventure World in Godot. So, in this video, I wanted to do some cleanup because the next thing we're going to do is add probably the weapon for the player to. Well, we're going to add the gates and stuff like that, but we're going to add the weapon that he'll use to. That'll be our next big feature. So, to get ready for that, I wanted to clean this map up because we've got a lot of things that we've kind of set up temporarily. For testing, like we don't even go up here in the cave anymore because the treasure chest is right here. But the big thing that I wanted to do is, this feels really cramped right here. So the player goes from here to the house into the cave and stuff, and there's like no room for any platforming kind of activities or challenges. And so I wanted to kind of solve that. So what I want to do is move this castle back. So this is going to be kind of interesting, but I thought this would be a good example of how to edit these maps on a kind of a larger scale. So I had to do a little bit of research on this, and hopefully this goes pretty smoothly. The tile editing on large stuff like this is a little bit finicky, so let's do this carefully. So I'm going to grab this foreground tile map, and then up here at the top there's this button here that you can click, and down here it's got all the kind of like bulk kind of editing you can do. And specifically we want to select, and that will allow us to cut out or copy a large portion of our tile map. And then I'm going to do duplicate, but first I'm going to kind of zoom out. Oh, I know what I need to do. First, it won't let me scroll over because my map ends right here. So let's go ahead and let's grab this. So if you hold down Control and then click a tile, you notice it automatically picks the tile that you selected. So that's pretty handy. So I'm just going to kind of go over a ways, and now see how I can scroll further. So that should be enough, maybe a little bit more. There we go. And so I'm going to go up a little bit too, so I give our platformer a little bit of verticality, make it not feel so flat. Alright, so I still have my selection there. You can see it, and so I'm going to go up here and go to duplicate selection. Now I tried these key controls and they do not work for me, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong there, but they do not work. But now you can see I've got the copy of my castle right there that I can paste. So I'm going to put it up a little bit higher. Let's put it about right there, looks good I think. And there it is. Now you notice my background is not there, so we'll have to go down up here to our background tile map, select it, and then you notice my selection is still there. I noticed I can keep that and do duplicate selection, and it duplicates my background in the same position as the foreground, which is fantastic because there we go. There's our whole castle moved in just a couple clicks, which is super helpful. So the other thing I can do is go up here and go erase selection, and it'll erase that one. And I can go to my foreground, and unfortunately that erase does remove the selection, so I've got to reselect it, which is not a big deal. So I'll grab that, tile map, erase, selection, and I'm done. Now we've moved it in just a couple of clicks. So alright, so next thing is let's move our grass over. So I'm going to grab this grass and just go bananas, adding some stuff like this, and go up and down a little bit. And then, I don't know what my target is here. Alright, so there we go. That should work okay. And then we're going to fill this in. And there's a fill option, so let's select our dirt. There's a bucket fill. But notice how it's trying to fill everything else as well. That's because we've got these corners here, and it considers that a hole. So let's go ahead and fill in some of these holes. Oops, didn't mean to do that. See, this is where that control comes in nice and handy, as you can switch really quickly without having to move your mouse around a whole lot. Now you could just scribble in here like this, but that would take quite a while to do. Oh, another thing, let's go ahead and save this. Just in case we mess up, we can restore it very quickly to this point, which we know is going pretty well. Alright, I'm getting there, Got to fill in these too. We don't have to be as accurate with those. Just need to make sure they're filled. There's probably a quicker way to do this, but this will work. And oh, well, that might have been why it leaked. Maybe not those angles. Let's leave that angle right there just to see. Let's go up here to the bucket fill. Put it in there. Yeah, it's still leaking. So let's go to the paint tile. We'll fill those in. Do I have any other places? I don't see any. So now let's try the bucket fill. Still wanting to leak on me. Oh, there we go. Alright, so now I'm going to click. There we go. Just make sure that preview is what you want, because I had it filling up like the whole area like that, and I made the mistake of clicking, and it pretty much froze up Godot, and I had to close it out and reopen it. So be careful with that one. Alright, so paint tile, let's fill this in a little bit, because I will be able to see that as you're running along. There. Let's see, bucket fill. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing wrong on the those hotkeys there, but they do not work for me, which is unfortunate, because that would be handy. At least the control works, which is probably the most important one. Alright, so we're going to fill this in right here, and then I think that'll be it for now. Alright, so let's save the scene. Okay, so we've got our moved castle. This will give us some space. I think the player should still start here-ish, but this will give the player some platforming stuff to get to the boss, which I think would be great. Or we can even move the player over to here and put up some signs that say this way to the castle, this way to some other stuff. So we'll see about that. Alright, let's see. Another thing I wanted to add was bounds, because our jetpack now allows us to fly, which is awesome, but also kind of can spoil the game when you can fly over the castle and fall off into oblivion. So let's go ahead and add those bounds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new object, and here I'm going to create it as a 2D node, and matter of fact, let's change that type to a static body 2D, and we'll call this a bound. And then we'll add a we could add a sprite and then stretch it, but that might lead to some weirdness. So let's add a polygon 2D. Alright, and so up here is our origin right there. And so let's go here and let's set this color to, we'll set it to black. I wanted to set it to red, but I thought that may be a little bit breaking feeling in the game when you see this big red border. So we'll just leave it on black. And then the polygon here, we will set the array size to 4. So we're going to have 4 points. Actually, you know what I should do? I totally forgot about this. Oops. We've got these guys up here. So I'm going to create a polygon by clicking there, clicking there, clicking there, clicking there, and then back on the start. And that should create my polygon. Now I've got it created here under this array, and I can edit these. So I'm going to say this one is 0, 0. This one is 10, 0. This one is 10, 10. And finally this one is 0, 10. So that should square up my rectangle nicely. Let's move this into, I guess, objects. We'll call it a bound. And then I also need a collision shape on this, because this area, static body, needs it. So let's do a collision shape, and we'll make it a rectangle. And our polygon goes from here to here. we could either move this, or we could just change our bounds of our polygon, and I like changing the bounds of the polygon better. So here, instead of going from 0, 0, let's go from -10 to -10. You see it change already. And then up here should be 10 in the x and -10 in the y. So 10 in the x, -10 in the y. Down here is fine, which is 10, 10. Then this corner right here should be -10 in the x, right? So it's over to the left 10, and then down 10, which is 10 in the y. Whoop, I didn't save that. There we go. Alright, so there's my bound, and the player should be able to collide with this. We could test it out real quick if we wanted to by going to our level and scrolling over here, and it doesn't really matter where I put it in my scene because we're going to delete it in just a second anyways. So I'm going to go to Objects, find my bound. Where'd you go? There he is. So we'll add it. It's really small. Not nearly as big as I thought it would be. Which is fine. Let's try it. Alright, so there he is, and I can collide with my bound, my ultra tiny bound. But that's okay, because we're going to scale it up to what we need here. So let's see, let's put him in the foreground static objects, just like that. And let's name this one top bound. Alright. And we need to scale that puppy. So to scale him, we'll just come down here to the transform, scale, and we'll do the X by like 100? No, need 1,000. There we go. And the Y, we do need to make this a little thicker, so let's go with 50. Yeah, that should be plenty. So now I've got this great big object up here. Actually, I need even more in the X direction. Let's go with 5,000. Doesn't really matter if it gets too big. That should be fine. And we'll put it up about right there. We want the player to feel free, like they can fly up, but we don't want them escaping from the world. Alright, so then we need another one. So we'll duplicate this one, and this one will be called left bound. Alright, and so there it is. There's our left bound. But we want to scale it in, this one should probably be about 50, and this one should be, 2,000 or something. Oh, sorry, 2,000. And so we'll move that one right there. So this will prevent you from going too far off the map this way. And then we'll duplicate that, and we'll call this right bound. And this one will scoot over on that side. And we'll just snug it right up here against this castle so that you can't fly off the end of the castle. I did not know you could double click into objects like that. If I double click, it goes straight into it. That's cool. Alright, so now we should be able to fly around and not be able to escape from our map like we could before. Alright, some other cleanup real quick. Let's go ahead and delete this extra nodes that we had for testing. So we had an extra treasure chest right there. Let's see. We still have our one here. We have our player right here. Let's move. Whoa! Not what I wanted to do. Let's put that on move. Let's move the player up here. We'll start him off up here for right now. But we'll probably move that in the future. Let's move the jetpack back to its location. There we go. And I think the bat is good. There's our pickaxe, which is good. Oh, the cave darkness. Where is that? Let's see, it would be in the foreground. There we go, cave darkness. We've got that hidden, let's turn that back on. I think that's the bulk of our cleanup from that perspective. We'll probably do a little bit more in the future, but there was one other code thing that I noticed. Let's see if it comes up here in the... It's not. There was a code thing that I noticed, and it had to do with... Let's see... It was either in the player script... Where's our player? Let's double click him, go into his script, and we had a situation where we were doing a get node and then we were testing if that node was there. Let's see. That one may have to wait. I'm not remembering exactly where it was. But I was seeing an error coming up here, down here, and it was ignoring it. You know, it was getting by just fine without it, but it's best to get rid of those. Anyways, the point was we were doing a get node, and it wasn't finding that node in a certain situation, and I found out there's another function called has node. Right here. And it returns true or false if the node is there or not. So what you can do is say if has node, and then you can get it. Otherwise, you don't bother doing the get, and that gets rid of that error that was popping up from that. It was something like this, you know, where we were getting an animation or a sound or something. All right, so let's end the video there. We've done some really great work here, cleaning up our map, expanding it out, keeping our putting in our bounds so that we don't escape now that we've got this cool jetpack. Next one, we'll probably start working on the weapon, and I think that's going to be super fun. I've got some good ideas that I think will be pretty exciting, and so we'll try those out. So look forward to that, and I'll talk to you next time.